Everyone, thank you for joining us today on Beyond Real Estate with Jalen, where we strive to edutain. That is, educate a little and entertain more. Here, we discuss topics surrounding dad life, brief discussion of the current hot topic in the real estate industry, and then end it all up with the business bookend. Before we start getting to know someone else just a little better. Hey everyone, welcome back to This Week on Beyond Real Estate with Jalen. So today, Nick and I are flying solo, but we don't have a person on with us today. So if you tuned in last week purely to hear Peter Mejia, which is spelt, I've discovered it is spelt with an E, not an A. So sorry, Peter, for that. If you saw any of my horrible misspellings of your last name. Today we're back, just Nick and I, and we're going to be starting off with the topic, as always, of dad life. But first, Nick, how was this week for you?
This week as a whole?
Yeah, let's go with this week as a whole.
Okay. It's been productive and busy, I feel like, in comparison. So, which is, of course, a good thing when you can say you've ticked those two boxes and ramping up to be a good kind of full weekend as well.
Nice.
On the real estate side. So have a couple things on deck for Saturday and Sunday with open houses. So not a bad week and all. And Diego has graduated fully into a roly-poly and can roll his way either way on demand.
Nice.
So it's like watching a show on Netflix. You just hit play, you set him down, and he starts going. So
off he goes. Go, yep. Diego, go. That's going to be something that you all get very tired of hearing. Because that was a show, right? Dora the Explorer spinoff. Go, Diego, go.
Yeah, I've heard rumors.
Okay. Yeah, be prepared for that.
Yeah. How about you?
This week, I can't complain. It was a good week overall, working on getting a few things under people that are under contract, that getting loans figured out for them. Interest rates jumping up and climbing is always a scary thing. And so a lot of people are just really wondering, what does this do to me? What does that mean for everything? Like, where am I? And so now it's just kind of tempering expectations as more people are wanting to go into the market and just continuing to follow up with people.
Sure.
That's sales process is all about the follow-up. And if you don't do that part of it, life is going to be very hard for you. So weeds out the week.
There you go.
Yeah. So, today we're going to be talking in the #DadLife segment about grades in school. And so, let's start there.
Okay.
So, grades in school.
Yeah, so grades overall. Wanted to bring this topic up because I came across a book recently from Adam Grant, who posed the idea: are A students more creative or less creative than B and C students? And everybody has their own tests, so take it with a grain of salt, of course. But with the tests that were performed for his study, it reflected that B students were more creative than A students. And two takeaways maybe were that A students are obsessed with being perfect, or they're terrified of being wrong. I think nonetheless it creates for an interesting discussion on grades in general, as you alluded to, not specifying anything, but then to get more specific, are B students more creative long-term than A students? So to talk about the grades in general, I think they're a good measuring stick. I think it gives you a reference, to say what can you improve based on the standard.
Sure.
With that said, I think it becomes a slippery slope in that people in every walk of life too often tie their results to their identity, right? It's, I got a poor grade in that class, whether it's a C or a D, or for an A student, it's a B, and it defines them. right?
Yeah,
And
well,
I think
it's also with just grades themselves, they do define whether you succeeded at that or not. It's like, did you know enough to pass this class, or do you have
right.
to take it again? So it's almost like it's built into the structure of what grades are, where it's they're determining whether you are a failure or you are passing successfully, and to what degree you pass successfully too. Um,
But
yeah,
it's where you are, not where you will be,
definitely
right?
true. Yep.
And I think that's an interesting reality that often gets forgotten too.
Yeah.
A grade tells you where you are at the moment, and
Yep.
there again, it deters many students when they're just like, "Oh my god, I need to stop. I need to quit. I need to do something else."
Yeah,
Um,
I'm looking at you Calc 2 in college. To very quickly determine whether or not math's a good fit for you after Calc 2. You're like, ooh.
yeah,
I mean, it sounds to me, just based on what you were saying, that you do view grades probably with more weight than a lot of people have in recent years. So, I mean, put it in your own words. How important are grades to you?
grades are important because again, it gives you a reference as to what you're doing well in. And do we necessarily need that? I don't know. I guess it's how do you measure success?
Yeah.
If you say you're a success or you're a failure in relation to what? And I
Yeah.
guess grades give you that what. It defines it based on standards that we can comprehend.
Yeah.
Um, so I think they're a useful tool, but again, it's just a tool. I think it needs to start there and it stops there. Again, it's not something to define you and where you'll for sure end up.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. I agree. It can be a good measuring stick in the sense of, hey, right now, currently, I know X amount about a particular subject, but by no means does it now limit you to reaching your full potential in whatever that thing is. Math is a great example of it, where, depending on how early someone's introduced to mathematical concepts, or how familiar people are with just a number system at their really early ages of life, can definitely have an impact on how well they'll do in math. But someone getting, say, like a kid getting a quote unquote A or a passing grade or whatever weird thing they do, they have like the really good, like satisfactory, not satisfactory. 'Cause I don't know about those because that's even more confusing to the whole grade scale. Um, but being able to understand too that different people start off at different points, and so yes, if we're using grades as a measuring stick, and use it as a measuring stick, um, but it doesn't seem like that's what happens most of the time, or how educators or parents view it when, say, their kid gets a bad grade.
mhm.
It's, why do you not know this? Well, you need to do more work. You need to work on this more. When in reality, it could be they just missed a step. Um, and they're just not to that point yet. And so when you're grading to a first grade level of math, it's like, well, they're not at a first grade level of math yet. They You need to reinforce the uh, building blocks of math up to the first grade level if you want that kid to be at first grade level. But that's never been my experience with it, of seeing, hey, here's what we need to do to help someone get their grades up. It's always, you didn't do your homework, you didn't, and maybe Nick, what's your take on that? Where homework and doing these menial tasks, and not that don't necessarily determine someone's true ability or understanding of a subject, is almost weighted more than knowing the subject itself, which then makes the whole, we're going to use this as a measuring stick, makes it really hard to do if you're not actually using it as a measuring stick, because you're taking into account all these other things. Like, well, they did 5 parts of this math equation right, but not the sixth. It's like, well, I guess you should get partial credit, but now they did the mathematical formulas 20 times in their notebook, and that got them some extra credit. It's like, but if they still are missing a key component of what they just learned, then how are we using that how are we using that as a good measuring stick for someone? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think homework in general gives you the opportunity to have repetition, right? And I think
Yeah.
to learn anything, that's where the value lies in seeing it in different facets, right? Again, homework will present it in one facet, and then complaint you get often is, but that's not what was on the test. Well, you can't prepare for life exactly how it's going to unfold either. You
Yeah.
can just have different experiences to try to prepare you as best you can. But that's reality too.
Yep.
So I think there's definitely value in it, but as you alluded to, there's so much subjectivity to it. Well, this one's
Yeah.
better. This is a better assignment because of this. Well, okay, we'll define better again,
Yep.
because or is it just you prefer that? In which case, when you have 30 kids in a class, how do you really come up with the best system? Right? You're always going to
Yeah.
have a better system for 5 of them, and for 15 of them, it's that better system for the 5 is going to be worse for the 15. So which one takes precedence? Like, I think that's always the challenge that grades will have, because it's like, well, my kid's not a good test taker. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Figure out a solution to that versus focusing on the problem. Like,
Yeah.
how do you improve it? We're not after perfection, we're after improvement.
Yep.
And I think that's another interesting piece, which I'll kind of shoot off into the angle of A students and B students of
Yeah.
creativity, right? And that perfection piece. What is your take there, Jay, with that concept?
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on it too quite a bit in there, was that grades don't necessarily reflect what your skills or ability are. And so I think when it comes to being more creative or not as creative, I think there's definitely a way that a lot of people, when they're growing up through the schooling system, they do have a structure and a set routine, which is important for especially young kids and young adults. But then when they're taken out of that structure, or if there's a disruption at all to how they believe things should be or what they've grown accustomed to, then they do see, um, I mean, you see more problems with those types of people traditionally. So that comes down to A students and B students, maybe, and I don't know if there's necessarily any studies or anything like that, but to back this up, but maybe Adam Grant's studies, and I haven't read these ones myself, but if he's saying B students are more creative than A students is what they're kind of finding, maybe that creativity also comes from real world problem solving. And so they're able to understand a balance of life more so than, say, those A students. I think the traditional straight A student has a lot of stigma, both positive and negative. You know, bad, no social life, no real personality. They're boring, and that's because I think it plays to they can't be as creative. But also, when you take those students out of it, they almost have to relearn to be creative and be real world problem solvers. Uh, but sometimes people are able to effectively be a robot, and so it's like, well, is it necessarily a bad thing for A students to be less creative if they're able just to set their mind to a task and complete it and not really venture outside the lines per se? Uh, Nick, do you think there's an inherent positive or negative with being either a student that isn't as creative or a B student that is more creative?
I don't know that there's necessarily a positive negative. I think there are better environments maybe that are more conducive, right, to
Sure.
characteristics you just portrayed,
Yeah.
right? For those that are wanting to stay in boundaries and have that structure, is that the medical field to say you don't
Yeah.
have any room for error? Like, I want that person operating on me,
Yep.
right? I don't want that creative mind to be like, ooh, maybe we'll try this. Um,
Watch me juggle.
yeah, but then you look you look at the various entrepreneurial businesses, the Microsofts, the Apples. Like, let's be honest, they didn't get a doctorate in anything,
Nope.
and they came from a much different background. So again, not to say there's a right or wrong. I think there's more conducive and better environments to put ourselves in based on what our characteristics are. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, personally.
Yeah, 100%. I think we see almost all of society kind of segregate itself into those people that are kind of the B thinkers, the creative thinkers, and the more straight and narrow thinkers. And there's jobs that kind of go into that. Um, I think what you and I do is traditionally what people believe to be an extroverted activity, and I would say that I am probably closer to a more introvert or amnivert, which is a term that we'll get to when we go to Daniel Pink's To Sell as Human, because he brings what an amnivert is. But it's being able to fit different things. You can really shake up an industry, I guess, is the way what I want to say, by applying either a systematic ideology or a creative um, personality ideology to what has traditionally been the opposite. And you can really find some more interesting problems that the people that have traditionally been in there just never thought. I think any government work, everyone can be like, "Yep, you're not having too many creative people in there. You probably should, because it's not like government's just this uh, bastion of great ideas, and things are just, they run so smoothly and it's so quickly." Nick, how long did it take you just waiting for your real estate license to be certified? You already had the tests completed, you already got a passing grade, but then you had to just wait for the state of California to just certify the results. How long
I,
did you have to wait?
that process for me, to be fair, was not a time staking one. It was the process to get my documents in a position to allow me to take the test that was
Okay.
painstakingly long and a big unknown. But to be fair and to be honest, when I did take it, that process wasn't a time consuming
Okay.
one.
So the
So
one right before that, though, how long were you waiting just to be able to take the dang
six
test?
months,
Yeah,
six
6
months
months.
between
Yeah,
me having all my boxes ticked, everything turned into the needed entities to account for it. Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah,
It's and then I don't know about you, but then you have something like the IRS that has automated more stuff and just like tried to get the human condition out of it. Oh, this is an easy tax return and whatnot. We
right.
filed our taxes a week ago and already got the state return, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh wow, that was fast. Cool.
that was the A student working on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, perfect. I think that's where we're going to end things for the moment. That's all I had to contribute to that particular discussion. Nick, do you have anything to wrap us up with?
No, yeah, I think that spot takes us at a good point to transition into our next area.
Perfect. Well, then we will be back after a short break and jump right into real estate roundup. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast so far. Wanted to let you know about something free Nick and I are giving to every single one of our listeners, and that is HomeBot. HomeBot is a free monthly real estate digest. You can know the value of your home, or if you're looking for a home and don't want to be bombarded by realtors giving you calls and mortgage lenders, a free tool that lets you look at what is currently happening in your real estate market. Check the link below and be sure to sign up today. All right, let's jump back into Beyond Real Estate with Jalen.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us right after that small break. Wanted to segue into our real estate roundup, and this week's topic being, why would anybody sell now if they just have to turn around and buy at a high price? So where my head goes to when thinking about that question is, sellers out there, you can sell your home as is. You can sell with a leaseback option, meaning maybe you don't know where you want to go yet, or you just haven't decided, but you have it narrowed down. A leaseback option within the negotiation phase allows you to stay in your home for the allotted time that you spell out, whether it's 30 days, 60 days. I've heard people have a lease back option up to 90 days. So again, that control is in kind of your end of the court right now based on the current market conditions. So I think you have those two pieces, not to mention the equity that sellers this day and age have. You have an unbelievable amount of equity depending on how many years you've owned, of course. But the last few years alone have seen just record numbers of home appreciation. So you have that benefit to work off of when stepping into a potential change in your life. Interest rates, there's so much talk, oh my God, they're going up. Yes, but relatively speaking, they're still in a better, lower space than they have in prior decades. And facts will tell you that. So even though we're edging in and around 5%, that's still, relatively speaking, it's low in comparison. So those are the first ideas for why someone would sell in today's market and turn around to look to buy high. Jalen, hearing that, any sticking points for you?
Yeah, the biggest one that I'm seeing and that I always recommend clients, I've had quite a few of them that are wanting to sell a home while moving into a new home. And just to avoid the things like bridge loans, the the all cash offer that everyone sees and knows, those can and are great programs for some people. The biggest thing with a lot of those is they cost a lot of money. I won't even say they cost a lot of money. They cost more money though than if you just do it the right way the first time. So here's the right way of doing that. If you're wanting to sell and you're worried that, hey, I don't want to be homeless for a while. Perfect. You don't have to be. So step one, get pre-approved for your next house. That's the easiest thing in the world. Doesn't cost you anything, at least with a good lender. Find a lender that doesn't charge you in order to get pre-approved with them. That's step one. Super easy. Second one, while you're getting pre-approved, talk to an agent about listing your home so that you have everything ready and good and you're just ready to go. The day that you put your home on the market, the day that you put your home on the market officially, that's the day that you start being very aggressive with your whatever offers you're going to be putting in, and you already know what homes you're going to be looking at, and you're basically setting yourself up. So all you have to do is list the property, start putting in offers, and then if you need that rent back, like Nick was saying, or lease back, called a few different things.
Yep.
Basically the same thing though. You can use that, but now you've given yourself. Say you sell your house successfully the first day it goes up. Great. It's going to take 30 days just to close the loan. There's plenty of other mortgage places and stuff and realtors and everyone that says, oh, we can do this in 7 or 14 days. No one wants that headache. You don't have to sign up for it just because it's an option. You don't have to do that. I don't recommend doing it if you're selling a home and moving into another one. Those really quick, fast closes are really great for people that like, say someone inherited a house. Great. You're okay closing quicker. It doesn't matter. But if you're moving from one house to another house, please, for the sake of everyone involved, do not do a quick close. You do not need to do it, and it gives you more time to put in good offers. So you have 30 days just for it to close, your current house, the sale of it. If you have a 60-day lease back, then that gives you 90 days, 3 months to shop for a house and put in really good offers without just jumping on the first one that you're like, this is the house we need to have. It's not perfect in any way and doesn't really have anything that we want, but it's a house now and I don't want to be homeless.
And now I want to touch on that lease back real quick because I know the question has come up before. Well, who's paying for that? Well, it depends what market you're in. And sellers, you're in the market right now where you hold the majority of the chips, so to speak. And I don't know of one seller right now that's having to pay to stay in their house, right? Because buyers, there's not enough houses. It's like, you want how many days? I'm good with that. Okay, 60. And now they're going to plan accordingly. In a buyer's market, sellers do have to pay and say, hey, I'm willing to pick up extra, whether it be property tax, interest, etc., to make sure that doesn't get on the buyer side for expenses within the transaction. But this day and age, as we currently speak in 2022, sellers are not having to do that based on current market conditions. So it's just something to be aware of there. When it comes to why would someone would sell, I think we're also getting spoiled with this appreciation as well, because I've heard some sellers say, well, I don't want to have to deal with a house payment anymore. It's just like, you've been dealing with a house payment for at least 20-ish years, most likely. So if you can sell high and you say, well, then I have to buy high. Yeah, but let's throw around some numbers. LA, it's not uncommon to get to $1 million, right? So boom, let's just pretend easy enough. Sold the house for $1 million in the LA area, and you go somewhere else, and even if it's 1.2, 1.3 that you buy, it's going to be super nice, by the way, because you're not in Southern California. Again, just playing that hypothetical card. So you're financing 200,000, 300,000.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do, that's a very manageable payment. But again, I think some people are just not getting greedy, but we're just spoiled with this appreciation, and we have this idea in our head to say, I want to be able to cash out where I am and never have to deal with a home payment again where I get in next. Interesting.
Definitely look at a different market then. It's you can buy a whole neighborhood for $1 million over in Ohio. They're giving those away.
And here's my last thing with why sell when prices, like right now when you have to buy high, because you're still going to have appreciation, right? You're not going to see it to the extent that we've seen in the last few years. It's 10%. Fair to say. Yeah, I mean, little fact check for everybody. Appreciation levels are in and around just over 4% year to year normally. We've been very spoiled again these last couple of years, and probably still again in 2022 before things start moderating and getting back to quote unquote normal levels in and around that 4% appreciation. So there again, why would I buy somewhere else at a high price? Because the housing market is what it is, and it's still going to appreciate long term. Like that's not a bad place to position yourself.
100%. And you also have to be aware as rates continue to increase, that means people are going to be able to borrow less money, which means that all those great, glorious appraisal gaps that people have been using are going to slowly start going away because people are going to want to start buying down interest rates. They're going to have less cash to close. And that's to make it so that their mortgage payment is better and better. And also by pricing out more people because of higher interest rates means less people on the market, which means all those homes are now going to be less competitive when it comes to bidding wars. So if we've been huge advocates of there's not going to be a bubble, but we've been saying there's going to be a plateau at some point, and rates increasing are definitely going to be a big contributing factor to that plateau starting to come around the bend. So be aware and also understand that you're in a really good spot to sell right now. I guess to say it bluntly, don't get greedy and assume that you're going to make another 10% on this year, and then you're going to be able to just take it out by next year if you wait one more year. So be aware of that.
Yeah. And I'll just conclude with 2 D words when it comes to appreciation. It's going to be normal.
Big D.
It's going to be normal to see appreciation levels decelerate, not depreciate. Depreciate is going below zero, and now you're in the negative, and that's where we were in the housing bubble. Things have gone so high so quick. So many people have questioned, is that sustainable? Short answer in one word, no. And so you will see appreciation levels decelerate. That means slow down back to in and around 4 or 5% is normal year to year. And you use the term plateauing, and that's going to be a normal space. But let's be honest, you're going to see in the news and you're going to hear in the news, oh my God, appreciation levels are down 300% and all these outrageous percentages, right? To grab the headlines. So again, context matters, and don't get those 2 D words mixed up. Decelerating, things will slow down from appreciation levels. They're not anticipating to depreciate and lose value.
No, yeah. You don't sell newspapers based on Little League just won the local championship. They don't sell they don't have you clicking in based on good news. So talk to an expert, which we have also touched on quite a few times. Have your advisors that you can go to, and ask them these questions and what they think is best for your situation. Don't go off of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, insert any news broadcast here, because guess what their job is not to do? To give you real estate advice. Their job is to get you to freak out. And so it's more likely to do that if they tell you that your house is, down in value, even if it's not. And it's not going to be anytime soon. So,
But according to them, it could be.
Oh, it could be. Oh, boy, coming up on at 7:00. Did you know that your house could be losing value by up to 1.8% per year? Find out by tuning in at 9:00.
Something like that.
Yeah. That's gonna be my next job. Is just announcer. But yeah, that's all we got for real estate roundup. I like that. I think we need to have a lasso and wear cowboy hats at some point, and whipping sound every once in a while. Every time we change topics, just and then we move right on to the next one. But
with Ted Lasso.
With Ted Lasso. Yeah. That's all we have.
Up with
Perfect. Well, then we'll take a quick break and come finish it off with business bookend.
Oh, I thought you had already stopped.
Oh, no, I'm keeping that in too, if you think that I'm not.
Oh, hey everybody, just wanted to let you know, regardless of how you want to learn about the real estate market, I have you covered. If you want to read about it, I've got a blog. If you want to listen to it, you're doing it right now. You can watch me on my YouTube channel. And if you want to experience it, I can help you personally navigate the real estate space. Regardless of how you want to stay informed or experience real estate, I got you covered. Just reach out at your convenience. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for the final segment of Beyond Real Estate. And that is going to be the business bookend. Does that sound as cool on your end as it did on mine, Nick?
It was on mine. Yeah.
It sounded cool.
Oh yeah.
Though?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well,
just don't talk like that on a regular basis.
Or I will shut this down. So yeah, today, this week, we're going to be talking about "To Sell Is Human" by a Mr. and the manliest name of them all, Daniel Pink. Just to give you a quick recap of the book, "To Sell Is Human," Pink discusses just the myriad of skills that are necessary for selling effectively. So Pink also discusses the importance of building rapport with potential clients and understanding their needs and wants. He also talks about the importance of being able to negotiate and close deals, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And then Pink discusses several tips and techniques that can be used to improve one's selling skills. So I don't want to go too deep into it, and Mr. Pink's lawyer contacting us that we divulged all the secrets, but it is a nice and quick read. He's very engaging with the way that he presents things, and there's a lot of story motif that he uses. So he doesn't just throw facts and figures at you. If you've read anything by Malcolm Gladwell, I think that you will definitely enjoy anything by Daniel Pink. I'm currently in the middle of When, which is one of his other books that we might get to at some point. But yeah, Nick, have you read "To Sell Is Human"?
Have not read that one yet, but I have read the one you're working on right now, his book of When. And that more recently, I'm actually currently listening to the audiobook of his, The Power of Regret.
Okay.
His newest release just came out last month. So
Nice.
Very familiar with him. And as you touched on, he's just an interesting author for sure. Makes it very, like you said, very easy read. Uses stories to engage you and pull you in, and I think does a really good job of then being able to elaborate on the various topics that he does. So
yeah, and he does so by still staying on point. Where you're not just like midway through the chapter and like, goodness, what the is this guy talking about? Yeah. Like, oh, okay, yeah, this all makes sense. So Nick, I'm gonna throw a few of the tips that Pink recommends, just a very quick glance at all these tips, and then just to get your reaction then I want to hear your reaction to them, and we can go from there. So, first one, don't take no for an answer, which sounds scary, but we'll get to that. Be persistent. Don't take rejection personally. Find a need and fill it. Know your product. Create a rapport with your customer. Use body language to your advantage, and make sure your offer is compelling. So, first thoughts on those, Nick?
What you want my thoughts on each one by one, or
no? Just give me your overview. Give me your overall thought. Overall thoughts. Any of those that you just think complete BS, and any of those that you're like, that's amazing. Why am I not doing that now?
No and no.
Okay.
But he also said, don't take no for an answer. So we won't leave it there. Not that they're reinventing anything, right? But again, the way he's able to present some of these topics, I think, is very interesting. But let's stick on the persistence piece, because I think that one's something that sticks with me personally. Because we all have adrenaline, we all have that feel good moment, that really brand new, fresh idea that we're like, yes, and I can do this with it, and that with it, and that with it. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, you were telling me about that. And you're just like, yeah, about that. So the idea of persistence, I think, is, again, not a revolutionary one, but one that's always stuck with me with regards to the line of work that I currently work in, but have worked in, and just life experiences in general. So that's where my head goes with the necessity of it. Sure. And the importance of it.
Well, then let's also take this little bit. Let's go right to the title of it.
Yep.
To sell is human. He also talks about how selling has so many negative connotations with it, based on the old-timey, sleazy, and he even talks about this, used car salesman with a bad suit, and he's just trying to get you to buy, and he ain't gonna take no for an answer. And he brings up the interesting point that, hey, all of us are selling constantly, whether it's you're trying to let's back up a second and define what selling actually is and how we all do it. And it's to get someone either to give you time or give you money or give you something that is your objective, right? So even if you're asking someone for the seat on a bus, you're technically trying to sell them on you getting to sit instead of them. We all do it. The stereotypical Karen does it to an extreme degree, and Karens are the used car salespeople of people. So this is, I'm glad you like that analogy. This is an interesting concept. So on that concept alone, that selling is innately just a aspect of human existence. What do you think about that? And do you think what's the right way to do it, and what's the wrong way to do it when it comes to selling with that as a base concept?
Yeah, 2 things come to mind. One being, the idea of selling to me is the idea of giving something of value. And I think, like you said, it has, not just recently, but for so long, had a bad connotation to it of sleaziness and whatever. It's like, if we pose a question to our audience, what's the first thought that comes to mind when you hear the word selling? I can't imagine anybody probably thinking of a nice guy that has the best of intentions. And I think and that's unfortunate. Yep. But we have media and movies to thank for that too, right? We've just embraced it. So unfortunately, it's those of us that are in this space that don't fit that mold have to try to unravel years of an idea and a concept that has been accepted. So that's a challenge. But that's where my head goes. Is that's really what selling is giving something of value. And then you alluded to, we're always selling something every day. I think that's interchangeable with negotiating, right? You're always negotiating with your kid. No, I don't. We're not going to play right now. We'll play twice as much tomorrow or this weekend or whatever the case is. That's negotiation. That's selling. However, whatever word you want to use, I think those are interchangeable.
And they're a tough customer. Like, let's not.
Right?
They're like, why? And you're like, oh my god, because I try so hard not to use the because I'm the parent and you have to listen to me. That's like the one that I always try to avoid, and I do a pretty good job of it. But there are some times and you're just like, I don't know why you can't have Cheetos at 8 o'clock at night and you say you're hungry, but you can't because you're gonna have poor health. And it's like, well, why is that? I'm like, good Jesus, I don't know. All right, kid. I've never claimed to be infallible. Let's I've been pretty straightforward about that. So but no, I love that. And so when it comes to selling though, one of the things that Pink also likes to talk about is that being a good salesperson is not a just a trait that one is born with. I think we all think of the what's the extroverts that are able just to talk to anyone and everyone in the room, become best friends with everyone, and at the end of the day, everyone just wants to buy from them, and that's what a good salesperson is.
Real quick, Jake, I want to jump in. Something that I came across recently is think about the concept of introverts and extroverts. Who dubs you as an introvert? Right? Same thing with extroverts. Like no doctor, right? And this is what I had heard recently. It's like no doctor's ever said, we did a list of tests, Jalen, and by the way, you're an extrovert. And she's like, oh, thank you for telling me. It's like we tell it's our self-talk, right?
Yeah.
And it's what we're confident and comfortable doing. I think that's an interesting one, though, is that it's self-diagnosed. The whole idea of being an introvert or extrovert, and then we live within those parameters.
100%. And if you want to self-diagnose yourself, Daniel Pink actually has an introvert extrovert test on his website that he plugs a few times throughout the book. So,
okay.
So but that's again, it's you valuing, you saying, what am I in these situations? And you can, of course, the next time you go out, like one of them that he referenced that I just remember is, are you the life of the party, right? And it's like, sure, maybe you're generally not the life of the party, but next time you go to a party, you could make that conscious decision of like, I'm going to be the life of the party and meet everyone. And it's like, well, now you just kind of changed your own view of what you can be. And so I think that goes right to what I was going to ask though, was like, do you feel like it's innate or that it can be a learned characteristic? It sounds like you say it's learned. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think it's learned because it comes back to self-awareness. I think some people just don't choose not to look at themselves as the change.
Yep.
Isn't that Gandhi's quote? Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yep.
And it kind of goes back to you can relate that to self-awareness. It's like, again, we live in the walls that we tell ourselves. We live within those parameters, and that whole intrinsic, extrinsic piece, I think, fits that mold. In which case I'd say it's learnable.
100%. And so what do you think makes a good salesman? And before you answer that, I'm going to jump into one other aspect that Pink talks about, and then I want to hear your answer. So he also talks about back in the day, so 70s, 80s, previously, before the internet made any and all information so prevalent, the sellers had all the information. The sellers could tell you this is a good deal. You wouldn't know otherwise. And so it was always buyer beware. He shows and explains that it's no longer buyer beware, it's seller beware, because sellers can look up any and everything. And so the job of a salesperson is no longer to just get a sale, but instead not to, let me correct that. The job of a salesperson is no longer just to give information, but it's actually to be a guide and an advisor of the information that's out there. So with that in mind, what do you think makes a good salesperson?
Intent.
What
angle are you going at it from? Is it for me or is it for you? And as you just alluded to, when you and I have the same information, but my intent is to get a sale, and to ask questions to say, how do I get you to make a sale versus how do I help you make the best decision for you? Give an example for me in my space. I am 100% okay with having a seller consultation and advising that individual if it's in the best scenario for them to use an iBuyer because they need to
Yeah.
get out quick, and maybe that's the best solution. And not to say that's the perfect option, but I think it's the right option for that person. And it goes back to intent. What is my intent to help somebody? And
Yep.
if my intent is for me to get the sale, then I would never offer that solution, nor would I have that discussion. Right.
Yeah.
So that's my first thought. And a quote that's always stuck with me when it comes to our space of sales is stop trying to be interesting, start being more interested. Be more interested in what people have to say versus thinking of just the response and saying, yeah, but did you know this? Yeah, but are you going to do it or not?
100%.
Um,
Yeah, it becomes more of you do have to take that advisor role. You can't just people don't want to just buy from anywhere. And this is a big thing, and I think that this ties right into this whole book is you are purely a commodity if you try to just sell the commodity. Whether you are a financial advisor in any form of sales, but financial advisor, real estate, mortgage, if your sole purpose of talking to people is to try to get them to sell or buy something, then you are doing just a race to the bottom. You are no more special than whatever form of automated BS is already out there that you constantly lament against. And we all have it. Oh, that software, ours is Rocket Mortgage. Oh, Rocket Mortgage. I can't believe. Yeah, if you want to not have your loan closed in 3 months, people don't care. If you're making it, well, you're just going to talk to me for 2 seconds, and then this guy's going to talk to me for 2 seconds, but this guy's going to cost less money. Perfect. I don't care if it, I mean, sure, it's going to be frustrating. I'm going to hate the whole experience and it's going to be awful, but at least it was the least amount of money. And
right.
so you have to show that value. Remember, one of the make sure your offer is compelling was the last little thing there. Yeah, if you're just there trying to sell, it's like, well, then no one cares, especially insurance agents. Let me tell you something, insurance agents. If you call anyone about insurance, they will not care. It's the same thing with mortgages, but mortgages are a little bit better because not everyone needs mortgages every single year. But let's get this straight. No one cares about insurance or that you sell it. And if you make it your relationship with people purely about insurance, Geico or Liberty Mutual or whatever the last ad they saw in the last 10 seconds from the 10 other people that sell the exact same thing you do, and will lower their rates and will save them money, the person's going to go with that. You're making it purely about a commodity. Insurance people are definitely the most guilty with it. I don't know why. Real estate agents, I think, are one of the best people when it comes to building just true personal relationships. Like it's like, oh, I'm everyone's friend. But insurance people do not have that mindset, or at least the bad insurance people. There are tons of amazing insurance people. Don't get mad at me. But yeah. So on that note, with how many people and spheres and connectivity, and we talked about this last week, connectivity on thank you for being late. Do you think there are more opportunities to sell then today than there's ever been, Nick? And this will be our last question because I think we're running up on time here, but would love to hear that. With all the connectivity, is there more opportunities, or do we fall into we're now even more disconnected than ever? And that includes just doing something like helping someone out buy a house or get better insurance or have an estate plan.
Some of my answer will go into the idea of it depends how you see the world. Do you see it
Sure.
as a world of abundance where there's plenty of opportunity, or do you see it as a world of scarcity and saying there's only so much to go around? I think those are two different mindsets that will take you down two different paths with regards to trying to find solutions and opportunities to provide value and to sell. Um, and on that selling note, something else that's always stuck with me is people love to buy, they hate to be sold. Yeah.
100%.
When they go into a store, they don't want, if they're looking for shoes, they don't want to be sold the shoes. They want to say, I bought that.
Yep.
And I think that's something, again, it's always stuck with me. And I think it's an interesting perspective to have, because it's just, how do you help facilitate their experience, right? Whether it is helping buy or sell a home, you're just facilitating that experience, trying to make it as smooth as possible, in many cases as quick as possible, and in a seller's position for as much money as possible most of the time, right? So depending on what your niche is. So I think it goes back to, there's a ton of opportunity because of the tools that we now have that our parents and our grandparents didn't have. I think there's so much more opportunity to I guess bring to light and look at things a different way, because now you're able to look at it a different way. You didn't have the options that you did before. So that's my long-winded answer for saying I think there's a lot more opportunity than less.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's to the point that you were saying, and kind of what we touched on. Just make sure that when you're with all those opportunities, you're showing the value. You're just showing the value in what you have to provide and why it makes sense to go with you, because of the value you provide to your people. If you're reaching out to someone without value, they're going to stop picking up that phone. They're going to stop responding to that email pretty quickly. And I think that's, any of us would do that. So it's not cracking the code by saying provide something of value. It's it's treating others how you want to be treated, but more importantly, treating others how they want to be treated, not just golden rule, platinum rule. And so I think we can all be better in that. But so the first thing you need to do when you have a problem is acknowledge there's a problem. And the sales world, I think, is getting better at that. But yeah, that's all we got for today. Nick, it was a pleasure as always, and I'll let you sign us off.
Deal. Guys, wherever you may be joining, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hopefully we'll catch you here same time, same place next week. Thanks again. Want to see, hear, or listen to more of Nick's take on California real estate market? Check out my links below.
Also, check out the links below for more information on products, books, or references made in this podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.